evening, people. It is your Tuesday night motivation. You have reached the intersection of personal improvement, leadership, and faith. Yes, it is Litvak Leadership Live. We are here this week with a great conversation. We're going to be talking about how to make moderation the choice you must choose. We got a great guest, brand strategist Barry Butler is with us this evening. But before Barry joins us, we're going to have a moment of shameless self-promotion. If you have not liked and followed Litvak Leadership on the social media listed below, my question to you is, why not? So like us, follow us, ring the bell so you are notified when we go live and when we post content. We post content most every day, and I've got to tell you, this is a desire of my heart for people to improve, have personal improvement, move in the leadership positions, and at the same time embrace their faith and have it be a foundation of their life. Yes, that is the intersection of personal improvement, leadership, and faith. So without any further ado, let me bring our guest on, Barry Butler. Hello, Barry.
Hello, Sean. It's been too long.
It's been too long. Barry was one of the original guests here on Litvak Leadership Live. Barry lives on the left coast. He is 3 hours earlier than where I live on my coast, and Barry lives in Canada. So, Barry, let me ask you first, it seems like Canada's a whole nother country. Is it really that different from the U.S.?
There are many differences as there are similarities. But I think we have very much the same values, typically maybe a little less conservative overall, a little less militaristic, but very, very similar, very multicultural. If you go across Canada, you'll see very varying differences of diversity, a lot of immigration. And immigration has been picking up over the last few decades. And the country's growing at a very
people moving into Canada.
People moving into Canada. Yeah. So, but very, very similar. Basically divide the population by 10, and that's the population of Canada. It's because we're so far north, many areas in Canada are not habitable.
Sure.
Large mountains, lakes, rivers.
And it's cold.
Up north, it's cold. For instance, where I live in Vancouver, Canada, we're right on the Pacific coast, really 2 hours north of Seattle. Just a quick drive over the border to Seattle. Vancouver is, maybe half an hour to the border.
All right.
Then we're in the United States.
I'm not a fan of the cold. I'm a fan of you, Barry, and where you live in Canada, but I don't like the cold.
Well, you know what? Canada is geographically is different as the United States is, if not even more so. For instance, in Vancouver, the greater Vancouver area, it's about 90 degrees today. We're sweating. Woo!
I am shocked to hear that. Hey, Eric Bam is here. And since Eric is here, I think we can begin the actual conversation. So, Barry, our topic this evening is how to make moderation the choice you must choose. Now, I'm kind of a loud guy. You're kind of a mellow guy, at least from what I've seen in all of our interactions. Do you look at moderation as a lifestyle choice for you, or is moderation something you just naturally are?
I tend to go on the, slow and steady. I don't get it. I don't get really excited. I don't get really down. I don't yell a lot. But we're not moderation. We're not talking about fast food and beer, are we?
We are just
Oh,
no. We could be talking about fast food. We could be talking about alcohol. We could be talking about one's approach to life. Just moderation in responses. What does here? Let's go here. What does moderation mean to you when you hear the word?
moderation to me, in a big way, is not if you want to serve a lot of people in life, you want to serve your family, you might want to serve your faith and those followers, you might want to serve your community, um, and your customers, or anybody you serve. You could be a nonprofit, serving people in need, etc. But you don't want to get too involved in too much stuff, because then you can't really do anything right. It's like, you know I think even your family doctor will say, yeah, guys can have a couple of drinks a day, and as long as you exercise and get some good sleep, it's okay to have a meal out. That's moderation. But
Sure.
I think too is how you react to things in a general way. Especially these last few years have been very hard on people.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because Eric brings up that during COVID you decided to change jobs, which some would say, "Are you nuts?" Where others would say, "What a great time to do that." Do you see that as a move, as a move that was moderation?
Absolutely. It was the time, things weren't getting better. They weren't getting well. They got really bad, but from there, I was at the bottom already. I'm in sales, so business was gone in one day. Boom, gone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, because I didn't moderate right away,
Mm-hmm.
I got all flustered and I didn't make the right choices. I could have flipped into other products, other services, helping people in other ways. And I did. I started, doing this kind of thing, helping people on a daily basis. And it didn't really help my sales a lot, but it did help me stay engaged with customers. And it did give me an audience of people who really appreciated somebody being out there saying, hey, it's not just me having a hard time. It's not just me, lamenting my job loss, or the fact that I don't have any customers today, or that, my restaurant's going to close. So,
Eric Bam.
yeah.
So when you think about, and I hate to stick on COVID, but let's stick on COVID for a second. That was a
Still here.
great. I'm sorry.
It's still here.
It's this is what I hear. It is still around. It's not around like it was. It's mutated multiple times. We'll have the COVID show. I'm just going to use it as a backdrop. Unless you really want to dig into it, that's good too. But when people, when the pandemic struck in 20, there were a lot of people that were like, well, I'm waiting for things to get back to normal. Some people saying the world was ending. Other people saying, no, everything is the same. I'm not going to engage and adjust. Do you see those responses as moderation, or do you see something else as moderation when you are facing an unknown obstacle?
I think a lot of people were scared, and they were just hoping, maybe they had some faith that things were gonna. We were maybe misled a little bit about how quickly things would roll around, and I think politicians, authorities didn't want us getting crazy and have a stock market drop or something like that.
Sure.
But I think the money, government was throwing money at people. That was probably a good thing in some ways, but they didn't help people say, you know what, things might not get better. Why don't you get some education and we'll pay for it? You're throwing out money anyways. Why not do
Right.
something like that? Um, what I was already struggling a little bit anyways, through some medical stuff, and I was working from home already, so that wasn't a big change for me. But at the time, I figured, you know what, 17 years into a career with a particular company, it was a family company. We were very much like a family, but I wasn't feeling the love. So I had lots of opportunities to move sales positions with other people, mind you, working for somebody. And so I tried it out, and I said, you know, I'm in sales, full commission, and I said, hey, I'm moving to you. I'm building my business up, and I want to do it with you. It just didn't work out. I moved twice, and
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and where I landed the third time was saying, you know what, I'm going to do it my way. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been in sales for 20 years, in the same industry, corporate gifting, promotional products, and awards. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take the bull by the horn. And in our industry, we have tools. And I embraced those tools that said, well, you know what, I was afraid of going on my own because I'm not good at admin. You know, I'm good at making relationships. I'm good at taking small business and building it up and creating something magical out of that. And I realized that I could farm out that stuff I don't like, payroll and paying the bills, and I have people who do that for me. And I think a lot of people said they just weren't, maybe they wanted to do something else, but they were afraid to move.
So when you did that, what kind of self-talk did you what were you telling yourself? I got this scripture up here about self-talk and moderation. And when other people were telling you, oh, Barry, it's a terrible time to do that. Because I'm sure there were naysayers, how did you respond to them in a moderated way and keep yourself aimed towards your target?
I did have naysayers, for sure. I did. Most of them family. My wife was totally behind me.
Here.
Yeah, and we were back to back. She was working for her employer behind me here, and I was, doing my sales and prospecting from here, writing my orders. And but family, there were family and some friends who said, "Are you nut job? You've been there for 17 years." In our industry too, of course, a lot of our vendors favor, the bigger agencies. We were not huge, but we had 20 years of relationships with our vendors, but you know what, they weren't the only ones. So, and I knew who those other people were. So I joined an organization that had that buying power, and I didn't have to worry about it. But everybody in my industry who knew me, my vendor reps, other people in sales, they said, way to go. Great. Good on you. Do it. And I also got lots of encouragement. Vendor reps coming to me and say, say somebody like Randy. Some of you don't know Randy, but he represents the metal roof industry.
Yeah, and I buy from Randy.com.
I have lots of reps for that who represent different factories for me, and they were all saying, we're behind you like we were at any of these other places you've been at. So, and I think what I realize is I have friends, I have resources, and I don't have to worry about things like paying the bills and all that kind of stuff because I just farm that out. Sure, yeah, I got to give up some of my income to do that, but you know what? It was the only way for me, and I absolutely love it. And I can do anything I want.
Do you know what Eric is saying here? Looks fly. Do you know what looks fly means?
Looks fly for a white guy?
I don't know what fly is. I will admit it. I don't know. I do not know what fly means. It is
maybe you can share.
So it sounds like, you were rewarded for humility that you had with individuals in the past. that when you went out on your own, they were there supporting you, because you've always seemed like a very humble, non-boisterous kind of guy. I don't know if people would necessarily label me as humble. You smile when I say that, although there is some great humility.
You are and you're not, and
just don't let it out.
sometimes you shouldn't be humble. If you know what you got to do, you got to be confident about it. And I got to that point where, even although I was humble, I was confident, and I knew that I could take my business with me. I could find new business. I knew how to get business. And I actually signed up, within the industry to receive new prospecting tools to help elevate my business, to now I'm working at automating my prospecting and things like that. So if I'm having a bad day or got to take a vacation or a sick day, my marketing will continue. But it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what you're doing. I think anybody, if they search real hard, they can find help. And I think that's
what Eric says here about leaning into your strengths.
Absolutely. If I had been afraid of my weaknesses and concentrated on that, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have left my original employer, and I might be miserable, right?
So do you see leaning into your strengths as a quality decision towards moderation? Some would say focus on improving your weaknesses. What do you see as the balance in a moderated way?
As a salesman, I've learned that if you focus on too much, like the world is your oyster, that you can't concentrate on your priorities. And I think your strengths should be your priorities. I mean, there are things in life that we have to do that we don't like. And sure, you got to learn how to do those better, like Zoom and, LinkedIn and Instagram and things like that, and how to use your video. Some people absolutely hate that, but they have to do it anyways, right?
Oh,
say,
absolutely.
I don't want to be a techie. I don't want to, be doing all this video stuff.
People are like, I hate social media. And it's like, this is internet 2.0. It's not social media. Go ahead.
Exactly. It's like on my phone now, daily, I have a variety of different types of customers from different places in life. I'm getting text on my phone. I'm getting text in my Facebook. I'm getting text from my LinkedIn. I'm getting emails from customers, and you have to be on top of all of them. If you're going to be that person who responds to the people you serve on a timely manner. So, certainly there are things you have to, but I think, 80% your strengths. The thing is, if you concentrate on those, you can have, it's like having a superpower, right? If you're really good at meeting people, do that kind of thing. If you're really good at tech, do that. And, find people, like you can find people now that'll go on the phone and do your prospecting for you, or follow-ups. You say send out a list or an email to a bunch of people, you get all this feedback. And he says, well, I don't want to talk to these. Well, there are people who love being on the phone. I'm not one of them.
I love doing that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And some of them say, well, if you get the sale, I get a piece. What a better way to pay, right? And I think that goes in all walks of life. There's just been so much going on. I find it funny that we ask our kids to get straight as in school, but reality as adults, we're not straight A's
in all things.
No.
Yeah. So I was not the straight A guy. I'm sure that is a shock for people. I bet Eric was, though. Not really.
I was always like a sliver away. And I think what it was is there was just, like if you could do more than an A, there were subjects where I could get AAA, but they didn't get AAAs in school. You couldn't add them up to give you a bigger grade.
No.
Right. like, could I get 110% in social studies and geography and history and fun things like that? For some people, that's fun. Oh yeah, but trigonometry and science and not so
Trigonometry. There
much.
you go.
Not
So,
so much.
so tell me, when you are faced with something that is unpleasant and you weren't expecting it, how do you respond? How do you handle it?
Well, truthfully, sometimes not so well. But I what I've learned is, because there's been so much of it. Number one, to prepare for that, it's like insurance, right? You have insurance in case something happens. To prepare for that, don't be listening to the negativity, and if you're that kind of person who can easily get stuck, like it's like, I don't know, you put two old men together, they start talking politics, and then, where that goes.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so, but you can wind yourself up, and all of a sudden you've got this negative attitude, and certainly you're not gonna respond as well to negative situations, especially a surprise, right? You know, your car breaks down and you can't afford to fix it, or whatever it may be. Um, or an illness or something like that. But I think if you focus on, we got to know what's happening in the world. Find a news channel that gives you the truth, right?
Right.
Uh, my God, these days I find Al Jazeera is one who has a little more truth than everybody else, because everything's so sensational, and the worse it is, the more they talk about it.
Yes.
So I think
And
you got
that's
to.
why I've stopped listening to the radio. I don't watch the news. I will go on the internet and look at news sites. And I know I'm picking the politics of the news that I want to read. Absolutely. I am
Right.
reinforcing what I want to hear. I get it. But I don't read the crap.
Right.
Do you read the crap?
And you have to be careful too. You want to be realistic. Like, we can easily say, I like what this news anchor says, I like what this guy says, so I'm going to follow him. But then
Right.
you're not getting the whole story, right? So, get the basics, know what's going on, especially if it's important for your finances and you got opportunities you got to look at, you got to know that stuff. But don't sit there and listen to all the bad stuff all day long. The stuff happening in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state or province or your country or overseas. Certainly we can't be Pollyannish and hide from
Right.
it.
There's a
But
balance. There's a moderation.
yeah,
So
and it's like I say, it's all bad news. I remember Jeffrey Gitomer, for those who know who he is. He's a sales author, written dozens of books, and he'll be going to an event, and the hotel gives him a free Wall Street Journal, and he rolls right over it. Just, I got time for that. I got
right.
people to help.
I got
And
people.
but back to how I respond. Certainly things are a shock, and sometimes you don't take it so well, but you got to say, well, what can I do, right? And you got to kind of sit back, whether you're in a foul mood or not, and say, how can I turn this around?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's bad, it's bad. And if there's, sometimes you can't cope as well as you would hope. So you ask for help.
Wait, hold it. I like that. Cope as well as you hope. Is that what
As
you
you
said?
hope you can. Yeah. And just do your best. If say your car's going to be in the shop for a few weeks, and that means you can't go to work, or you got to take the bus or something like that, or if you have some health issues and you have to take off some time, and maybe that's going to hurt you monetarily.
Right.
Facts are facts. So get over it as quickly as you can, and do your very best. And better to, instead of lament and say, oh, this is bad and I'm going to lose money and I'm not going to pay my bills, ask for help. Ask for help from friends, family, and especially during COVID, there was so much money, around the world. In Canada's, U.S. especially being handed out to people.
But wasn't
Sometimes there's a way.
so as a whole, it was a lot of money. Okay, it was a lot of money. But as the individual money that they handed out to people, I mean, personally, I found it kind of insulting. So maybe people are going to, put up hate responses and say I'm out of touch. What they were handing out was not anything that people could live on for months at a time. It was money that, in different people's situations would either take care of them, just for a few weeks, I would think, right? I mean, it wasn't big dollars.
Yeah. Well, in Canada, like the U.S., you have states, I guess, in many states, they probably did things differently. Maybe they were handing out money monthly, right? If here, what they did is they tied it to the unemployment program.
Right. And they did that in the U.S. also.
Yeah. And it was the same across the nation, not in each province. So was it a livable income? No, I know, because
No.
I pulled on it some for a while. But what they weren't quick to tell people, which they should have, but I asked right away, this is taxable income, isn't it? And they,
Oh, yeah.
So I put 10%, put it in the bank, paid my bills as best I could, put some money, put some gas in my gas tank, and yeah, was it lean? Sure. But I mean, a lot of people were taking it, blowing it on extravagances, and
Oh, yeah.
working part-time and still taking the money. But that's okay. Government finds them one way or the other eventually. They're good at collecting money.
There was something.
They're good at spending it too.
So before we got on, we were talking about how I was going to be flashing scriptures up here, and you had told me that you were basically non-practicing of your faith, although you have faith. So I want to ask you, in those quiet moments when you're not talking to anyone else, and you see things happening all around you, do you turn to God? And if so, what does that look like?
I never really think about it. I do think sometimes, I'm sitting in my backyard and looking at a, beautiful Japanese maple waving in the wind, and think there's something higher about that.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't that gorgeous the way it is. The mountains, the lakes, the trees, the rivers. That's where I see my spirituality, and that's what gives me faith that there's a higher authority above me. And is it God? Is it Muhammad? I don't know, but I do believe in God, and there's just too many good things happening in this world to say that there isn't. Too many miracles, medical, etc.
Sure.
For instance, I had leukemia when I was young. Parents were told I had a week to live. And they said, but we start therapy right away anyways. And my blood count started picking up in 2 weeks, and here I am.
Here you are with gray hair and everything, receding gray hair. I don't have the hair.
I don't know if it's receding.
It's receding.
It's thin, but not receding.
So, you and I don't necessarily see eye to eye as to how we define faith, but that is not a conversation for today. So let me ask you: do you find that helps you in stressful situations where moderation is called for?
Absolutely. that's where I go. I'll go to a babbling brook, a stream, a lake, a river. I'll find the trees, um, and see nature. That's where I visually um, interpret my faith.
Hmm.
I'm not a druid, but that's where I see the loveliness in the world, and it's just it's not man-made, that's for sure, and it didn't happen just because. Um, I
Amen.
think somebody created a large garden for us um, throughout the world and handed it over to us to protect it and make it better if we can. Um,
That sounds
and
very Christian of you,
Well, thank you.
or
And
or very
that's the
Jewish.
same. That's the same for helping other people.
Yeah.
When you first talked about moderation before we discussed it, my thoughts were that you can, like, the term workaholic. You can be single, in a family, in a relationship, and you can be a workaholic, or you can have some form of, like, I'm in a union, I do 9 to 5, and boom, when I get my holidays, we're off camping, or we're off to the lake, or we're off to Disneyland, or to the park, whatever it is. um, there's another spot, like, for instance, I think anybody who works and volunteers for a nonprofit or a charity so they can serve and help others in need, including houses of worship.
Right.
uh, most people that are very giving to their own and to people outside, whether they're part of the faith or not. um, I see that as being part of moderation. You have to work hard to have a good living. You have to be honest and ethical, and serve your customers in whatever job you're in. You have to take care of your family. You have to spend time with your family and nurture them, and you have to take time out to help others in need. And some people, you don't have to have a lot of money or a lot of time to help people in need. And I think that's part of moderation. The other part of moderation, I think, is because we in the 90s, business was crazy. It was good again. We're between recessions, and you would think in a place like New York or something like that, people are working themselves to death. Um, I think you have to focus on the most important parts of every aspect of your life. You have to say, how can I best help and serve other people? How can I do the best job at my work? Not just say 9 to 5, stacking widgets, stacking boxes, whatever. Do it well, do it better than everybody else, and then go home and then focus on the most important things with your family, whether that's you know um, going to their sporting events, going to their band recital, or something like that, or taking them on a vacation away from everything so you can have valuable time together. And take that in every silo. Okay, in my work, what are the most important things? um, Most people don't know this, but I suffer from a little bit of anxiety, so it knocks me off the rails sometimes. And it seems I may be close to having a little bit of ADD as well. So I know that I'm not the guy. Like some people, they can have 1,000 things going on at their desk, and at the end of the day, their desk is immaculate and they get stuff done. That's not me. So I have to pick and choose, day to day, week to week, what is most important. And if I don't pick one, two, or three things a day and say, As long as I get one of those 2 or 3 done, it's a good day, right?
Absolutely.
And then I have charity work that I do. I belong to a couple of volunteer organizations, and I make sure I have time for them. They're all scheduled, so I know I have time for that. And then I have time for myself. So like say in my garden, or going for a walk along the river and enjoying some quiet, peaceful time. Things that lift you up spiritually.
You live the very moderated life, it sounds to me.
I try, and I noticed, like everybody else, when stuff happened in 2020, everybody was afraid. They're running in different directions, they're trying new things, not sure what they're going to do, and some people just jumped into things that maybe they shouldn't have without thinking about it. Like maybe leaving your job. I thought about it though.
You thought about it and you planned.
I certainly did. I had 3 prospects I was going to talk to, and 2 of them said, "Oh yeah, come on over."
Oh,
So I had a home before I left. But back to that. That's the other part of moderation, is don't try and be everything to everybody. Just pick your battle, pick your priorities, pick your goals, and work on those. And if you're 70 to 80% successful at a few things every day, that's a fantastic week.
absolutely.
Instead of trying to do 10 things and go crazy, and you can't do it all. And if you say, well, this is really important, what are they, picking up your kids or doing your charity thing, ask for help. Funny little thing. This is just a little thing happened in our neighborhood. We have 3 rivers that circle around our region, and then a mountain to the north of us. So we have a river that comes down the mountain, and it was like 9,500 degrees over the weekend. So people are on the river. They got their lawn chairs in the river. They've got their inner tubes in the river. They got their floaties in the river. And my wife and I were going for a quick little bike ride along the path. And we saw these 2 parents. And the 2 parents, they had, I don't know, their mug or whatever in their hand. And their little kids are loaded down with all the gear.
Making them work.
They asked for help, right? They said, the kids say, "Oh, we want to go to the river. We want to go to the park." You got to do your part.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So, Barry, we have gone 40 minutes on a 30-minute show, which, I'll be honest, I thought I was going to have to drag conversation out of you on some topics. And you have been incredibly conversational and very even keel throughout the entire thing, even when I, threw something at you you weren't necessarily expecting. So thank you for being my guest today. It's been a true joy to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It was my honor, and I'm gonna go back, and now that I know that you're recording some of these, I'm gonna go back and look at others and be watching.
Absolutely. They're all, for the great transition, they're all on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. They're not on Instagram and TikTok. But if you go back, especially on YouTube, you can see all the way to the very beginning. And I would say at least the past 20 are on LinkedIn, and a bunch, and they're all on Facebook too. So that has been the show today. Again, Barry, thank you so much for being my guest. Yo, you got another comment? Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes, sir.
One thing, and a lot of people have probably learned this, but for those that are struggling, it doesn't matter, because there's life continues, and there are always life struggles. If you're having a problem, or somebody having a problem, there's help out there. Mm-hmm. And it's probably right around the corner in your community, and you don't even know it. So For instance, I live in a town of about 55,000 people. We have like six Facebook community groups, and people are helping and talking to each other all the time. And you know what? There's a Chamber of Commerce, a City Hall. If you
And
need
there's
help with
good
something,
churches. There's
and there's
good
great
churches.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've got 3 right around the corner, feeling more religious all the time.
Faithful.
Anyways, I just want to say, don't feel alone. Reach out and
Yes.
help somebody, whether it's in your business.
Yes.
There are BIAs and chambers of commerce. If it's your mental health, there are all kinds of groups. And even if you're just, money's tight and you need to buy some stuff, there's local places that you can get what you need. That's all I want to say.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that, reminding people that they shouldn't suffer in silence.
They should not.
They should be reaching out to people for help. I would turn them to local faith communities, specifically churches that believe in having a relationship with God, and with Jesus Christ. And in another picture, if they, that is not what they immediately want, then there is, all sorts of secular organizations. But again, when I need help, I know I turn to God and to the church. So that has been your moderated moment for Litvak Leadership Live this week, episode 165, How to Make Moderation the Choice You Must Choose, with my special guest, Barry Butler. Next week is episode 166. We're going to be discussing avoiding distractions created by feedback with our special guest, Michelle Jesse. So that's it for tonight. Be happy, be well, and be blessed in all you do. See ya.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.